On the third day of our tour, we visited the region called Kocevski Rog, where there are large mass graves with victims still down in the caves. There are over 800 mass graves that have been found in Slovenia, dating from World War II and post-World War II. After World War II, Slovenia experienced a wave of extrajudicial mass killings carried out by the Yugoslav communist authorities, primarily in the late spring and summer of 1945. These massacres targeted both anti-communists, civilians, women, and perceived enemies. The victims of the post-World War II massacres in Slovenia, specifically in Kocevski Rog, include members of the Slovene Home Guard or Domobranci, other anti-communist forces from other parts of Yugoslavia, civilians accused of collaboration, political opponents, and refugees forcibly returned from Austria by the British. The perpetrators were the Yugoslav partisan units or communist OZNA, which were the secret police at that time, and later Konoi, who were acting under Communist Party authority. The methods of summary executions without trials included shooting for the most part. They were conducted in secrecy. Victims were shot, beaten, or thrown alive down into pits, caves, mine shafts, and mass graves. They were tortured before being killed. Historians estimate over 100,000 people were killed in the post-World War II massacres just in Slovenia. In the aftermath, the killings were officially silenced for decades under Yugoslav rule. Discussion was not permitted until Slovenia's independence in 1991, and it is still difficult today to discuss them. Kocevski Rog is a vast forested karst plateau in southern Slovenia, one of the largest execution and burial areas in Slovenia. In 1945, thousands of prisoners, including the Slovene Home Guards, or Domobranci, Croatian soldiers, Serbian soldiers, were returned from Austria, repatriated by the British, and they were executed in Kocevski Rog in May and June 1945. Victims were dumped into natural karst pits and caves, often after having been bound by wire, and explosives were often thrown into the cave. The Jama pod Krenem, or cave beneath Kren, was one of the most infamous execution sites. Prisoners were brought in groups, killed or thrown alive into the cave, and later buried under debris and explosives. Jama pod Krenem has become a central symbol of post-war communist violence in Slovenia. After independence of Slovenia in 1991, the site became a place of remembrance with more memorial services acknowledging the victims. However, it was first thought that the victims were Slovene, and the communist members, party members in Slovenia at that time in the 1990s did not reveal, although they knew, that the cave contained Serbian and Croatian victims. These massacres represent one of the largest episodes of mass political violence in Slovene history. Together they are recognized as crimes against humanity, and ongoing historical, forensic, and moral reckoning continues to shape public debate, reconciliation efforts, and national memory in Slovenia.
Maria, should we start?
Well,
Yeah.
Teresa?
Yeah,
Yeah.
filming.
She's okay.
As soon as she's ready.
It's filming.
Hello and everybody, welcome here in Kocevski Rog. We are currently at the location Cave under Kren, or in Slovenian Jama pod Krenom. This is only one of few mass grave sites in Kocevski Rog, which is notorious for these sites. At least 7 of mass graves are located in Kocevski Rog, and 5 of the sites were part of archaeological research. Not all of the sites were excavated. We also did some metal detector survey of the areas around the killing spots, and here, this site, it was not excavated yet, so the human remains are still present in the cave, but we did a metal detector survey of the large area, but about this I will talk a little bit more in the evening. In 1990, this was also the spot of the so-called reconciliation memorial service into to the memory of the all of Slovenians that were killed after the Second World War, because for a long time, it was said that the Slovenian victims are buried in this place. But in 2004, Dr. Mitja Ferenc and his history students did the first field research in the area. They also used metal detectors, and they found a lot of objects, and these objects were everything else but Slovenian objects. So based on the objects, this is the place where a lot of soldiers from the Serbian volunteer corps and also part of the Croatian army was killed. Just here to your left, there's a sign Jama de Bliške Livade, so this is another cave just 10 meters away from here. And it was thought that this was the place where they threw in the already wounded prisoners. So a lot of the prisoners that came from Kočevje were already wounded, and they just threw them into this cave. But as it was later discovered in 2019, we also did a research excavation of this cave, and there were no human remains in this cave, just a huge amount of military equipment. So water bottles, mess tins, personal items. And we believe because this was the place where the prisoners were taken from the trucks, after the killings there were a lot of their objects lying around. And the best way to get rid of this object, to hit them, was to throw them into the cave. We will walk a short path here towards the site, and this is the same way that the prisoners were taken to the cave itself. So you can now just walk towards there, and I will tell you a little bit more along on the way. So based on the research of Dr. Ferenc, so he and his students, they did a little excavation in this area, and they found a lot of objects from the victims, like trouser buckles, personal objects, buttons, and so on. And we also did the research of this area, and based on the distribution of the object that we found, we believe that this was the area where the prisoners were taken and being held here. Also, it was like a strategic position for the perpetrators, for the partisans, because the guards were probably around this edge and they had a higher ground and control over the prisoners. So the prisoners were probably, here they were tied with a wire, they were untied, undressed and tied back together, and then taken to the killing site, which is just over here. So based on these objects, because there are really not a lot of witness testimonies, there are no documents, so we are here dealing with mostly archaeological data, let's say. So we believe that this was the location where the prisoners were being held before being killed. This is the first memorial chapel that was built here, and the second one you will see on the way back. We will go the other way, we will pass the second, a little bit newer chapel on the way.
Who built this?
Kdo je že to?
Društvo za ureditev zamočanih grobišč, ki je transfer nevono. Denar je to v bistvu dala vlada. Tukaj je en paradoks, da imamo dva državna objekta, ki sta bila narejena malce ločeno. Tudi to je en izraz, da celo na tej strani, ki se zavzema za žrtve, niso bili hudo enotni. Pravzaprav imamo tukaj tri znamenja. To je postavilo Društvo za ureditev zamočanih grobišč. Kapelo je...
Association for Concealed Research.
Okay, yeah.
There is over there is a monument from a new Slovenian covenant, and there is Nova Slovenska zaveza, and there is a chapel built by the state.
So there is a chapel built by the state.
Three monuments, three different.
Oh, that's there.
Yes.
Okay. The state built where?
Yes.
Okay.
But it was built in the time that was not clear that this is the site of Serbian and Croatian death, not Slovenian death.
Yeah,
So
but
this
it's
is
all written
another
in
paradox.
Serbian and Croatian.
Not all of it. It's all.
Yeah, it's
Part
a
of it
mixed,
is.
This is Serbian and Croatian.
yeah, because
yes.
already
Right,
back then
so
they believed that
Right.
here also
yeah,
Serbian
good.
Croatian
So
victims.
it's
And
being acknowledged.
as
that
we
it's
will
there.
see later, there are a lot of, because people started to placing different crosses, monuments to the relatives, and there are also a lot of Serbian monuments, as we will see. And yes, these Serbian victims were
Right, that's
actually
in there,
proved by
yeah.
the objects that we found around this site that there are a lot of Serbian related objects.
Is this private land? Is it,
No, it's beneficial. I believe it's beneficial Kocevia.
Yeah.
There
This was
are
in
not
by-
many
Yeah,
private woods here.
Yeah,
State
he
or
just left to me up its way.
beneficial woods.
Nor was the and
Just mind your step, it can be a little bit slippery here. So.
and I didn't bring my
Tukaj ne pa še en hotel poimenjate, da določa represivno, ne? Da,
How deep is this? There's nobody.
Nobody knows.
'Cause when we were up
So
yesterday,
no one's gone down. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's covered, so we don't know the original depth.
I mean, they've gone down, but you don't know how far down the bottom is.
Yeah,
Right.
because they saw some bones, but that's it. So
Yeah.
we actually don't.
But
know.
nothing's been excavated from here?
No.
Okay. I thought maybe partially, but no, not a.
No, nothing.
Okay.
But is it even possible to go down? It looks filled with debris.
Well, you'd have to remove the
Yeah,
drain. You'd
it's
have to
possible.
remove the
Maybe
debris.
not now, but I think they went there in the 90s. So
Yeah.
back then it
I mean,
was. A little-
you'd need a big operation. You'd need a crane and whatever else probably to,
Yeah,
to
you will
remove
see
all
Macesno
the
Gorica how
rocks.
it looks
Where they
now.
did that,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
We did it.
Yeah.
But the current politics are that we are mostly excavating the locations where we believe there are Slovenians.
Yeah.
So this is the priority list, let's say Slovenians and so on. But maybe somewhere in the future we will also.
Do you know if the Serbian government, Croatian government are clamoring to have this dug up, or
What?
are they asking Slovenia to dig it up?
Do they have any graves at their own in Croatia or Serbia?
In Croatia they have it, yes. They were returning the Croatians across Slovenia. The majority got killed in Slovenia, but also they were taken to Croatia and killed there later on. So Croatia also has these sites, but also their priority are the sites from the last war. So
Yeah.
they're dealing mostly with the last conflict.
And what is the other operation with the cranes and everything? What does that cost? Who paid for it?
The cost, I don't know how much was it, but it was quite expensive, and it was the government.
Government pays for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we will see.
But the government contracts it too.
Yeah, we are
Company,
the,
right.
Yeah,
The government doesn't own the cranes.
Right, but they pay for it.
yeah, they do. But this was really an exception. Usually we do smaller stuff, and this was really the biggest, and I don't know how soon anything like that will happen again. So we'll see. We can go, I think. We'll go the other way back. No, this one is much nicer. Mass grave itself, so the prisoners were taken from the sinkhole right behind us to this place, and this is actually the spot where they were killed. We did a metal detector survey of the whole area, and exactly on this spot was where the main concentration of cartridge cases was also found. We found a lot of ammunition all around, but here, for example, just here were just big quantity of all sorts of ammunition, the remnants, just the casings, and we also found a lot of bullets around on this because the bullets were flying everywhere. But also in this around you, we found personal objects, magazines for submachine guns, crucifixes, pilgrimage badges, and so on. So this was actually the place where the victims were killed and pushed into the cave. We also believe that, similar as at Macesnova Gorica, this cave was also blasted to conceal the bodies. And but in this case, we know that the cave explorers were able to reach the human remains. Maybe you saw some photographs on the information board. So there are human bones inside of this cave, and we don't know if they will ever be excavated. We hope so, but currently they are still buried, and their number is not known. It's expected that several thousand, maybe 3,000, 4,000. We actually don't know how many people were killed here and are also buried in this mass grave. And as you can see, all around us a lot of memorials, because the relatives of the victims came here and set all these crosses in the memory, but nobody knows if their relative is actually buried in here or not. So this is also like a symbolic cemetery for these victims. And as we'll see later, the main, at this moment, to this date, according to data, the main site where the Slovenians are buried is Jama pod Macesnovo Gorico that we will visit next. So if you can just go around a little bit, see the monuments, but be careful where you walk so you don't, it's a little bit slippery. And
What was the terrain like? Were all these trees, some of these trees look pretty young. What was it like at the time? Do you have any idea?
yes, there was also a forest. For Macesnovo Gorico, let's say, we got some, I think, British aerial photographs from 1944. There are forests, of course, around, but the trees were much smaller. So, but yeah, it was actually forest back then. Similar, yeah. There were a lot of these villages in Kocevski Rog, the so-called Kočeveri lived here. So it was a German population from the medieval period onwards. So there were a lot of cultivated places, like villages with all of the farming area. But after the Second World, it got abandoned and the forest grew back. Yeah, but this place was a forest. So.
When did they put the fence in? Was that like
I
after
think in the
mass grave?
90s.
Yeah. So
probably.
people just had to be careful in the old days and not fall in.
Yeah, but there are a lot of caves like this around here. So these sites are usually marked with the fence, but all other caves are not. So if you walk around the woods, you need to be careful not to fall in one of the caves.
Scary.
Yeah.
The 90s or the old days?
No, I meant like the 1800s. I was just curious, like, did they have a fence during World War II or?
No.
Yeah.
There are literally hundreds of these caves, like from really small ones, couple of meters deep, to really large ones.
Yeah.